Mississippi Road. Mississippi Road.
Now realize the first European colonists came to our state from the south on the coast, but northeast Mississippi is an ancient land to me because my forefathers, it wasn't long enough ago to call them my ancestors, only 5, or counting mine, 6 generations of us now. Anyway, my forefathers first inhabited Mississippi in the northeastern part of the state. My grandfather's house is in Fulton. We'd go on trips here when I was a child, and when we did, we'd go back in time, back to a water bucket in the kitchen and a zinc-coated dipper we all drank from that tasted of metal, like testing a 9-volt battery to your tongue, only not as much of a jolt. And feather mattresses you had to climb out of when you woke up, to the hint of wood smoke coming from the stove, mingled with the aroma of bacon cooking and coffee making in the morning. We'd look for arrowheads here, and we found them. And we were told not to go down to the creek or walk through Mr. Wilson's cornfield without boots for fear of cottonmouths and copperheads. And since we didn't know what a cottonmouth or a copperhead was, we never feared them. And we never got bit now that we do know what they were. Northeast Mississippi is red dirt. Devoid of vegetation, this place would look like Mars. It's an old world here to me. People whose family roots are sunk here are still likely to use tinges of Old English and Gaelic and maybe even a taste of Old German in their everyday speech, because that's where the early settlers who came here were from. And this area stayed so isolated for so long, all of that just became the local language. Of course, us sophisticates called it hillbilly to hear someone say they're a-going to town, but it was Middle English when Allen a Dale went a-hunting, according to the old song we learned in high school music classes, and no one ever thought him a hick. Northeast Mississippi starts here, somewhere out there in Pickwick Lake. Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee all have a watery junction in the middle of what used to be just the Tennessee River before the Pickwick Dam and the hydroelectric plant. And other than red dirt, there are pine trees and hills. And older than the arrowheads, there are fossils. Granddaddy found aquatic mussel shells on tops of hills and in creek and river bottoms in northeast Mississippi. And that was his proof for Noah's flood, which validated the rest of Scripture for him. Then my generation comes along and finds out the earth is a lot older than Granddaddy's King James led him to believe, and way back under, this was all under the shallow, warm Selma Sea. So his tangible proof for his faith flip-flopped into my generation's more reason for uncertainty. Not that we didn't find faith, but planted on more surer things than geology. Took a while to find it. And maybe that teetering between the worlds of what you were brought up to expect and the way things actually turned out to be gave just enough tension to bring to the surface the artist from northeast Mississippi. Elvis, Howlin' Wolf, Tammy Wynette, William Faulkner. At some point, all of them strained to find the balance between today and tomorrow, and at the same time doing their best to atone for yesterday. But one of the modern wonders of the world cuts through northeast Mississippi, literally. The Tennessee-Tombigbee Waterway connects the Gulf of Mexico with the Tennessee and thus the Ohio rivers through this man-made canal. More earth was moved to create the Ten-Tom than was to create the Panama Canal. And so was the entire town of Holcott, moved out of the way so a hole could be cut right through here. Mississippi's highest point above sea level is just off New Highway 72 at Iuka, Woodall Mountain, only you wouldn't guess it by looking at it. It's that hump that rises just a little more than the surrounding average terrain. That's it with all the cell phone towers on top of it. Less than 900 feet above sea level, all of our TV transmitting towers are taller. But this is our highest place in the state. It's grown up so much along the new road you can only see it between the trees in a place or two. But now you've seen it. Some of Mississippi's greatest cities are here in the northeast, but they're great cities in every part of the state, so we'll just stay with the geography. Lots of farmland, lots of meadows, lots of cattle. Lots of towns just discovering themselves and creating their own museums to collect themselves before their past is forgotten, and there is no before remembered to create the tension with the after that's come along and have to balance with everything. And without that tension, it all becomes just sort of a blah now, with no more personality than you feel when you drive through a strange town you've never heard of in a strange state when you're on vacation. Now has little character without knowing where it came from and where it's going. But the hills and the hollows and the rivers and the creeks and the few places in the state where bedrock is exposed is all ancient land to me, because that's the way it was introduced to me, as the hallowed ground of my forefathers. Someone just coming here to work in the furniture industry or automobile industry will find this part of Mississippi fresh and modern, and it is. But some of us remember it from before it was.
For a copy of this program, call 601-432-6294 or send a check or money order for $14.95 to Mississippi Public Broadcasting, 3825 Ridgewood Road, Jackson, Mississippi 39211. Please indicate the name and date of the program.